So the common question asked is your strengths and weaknesses. First I'll give you a few pointers and then you can clear your doubts as to which strengths and weaknesses can we normally refer to. See, let's start with strength. When they say strength, they are talking obviously about your characteristic, your personality traits which have helped you achieve some degree of success in life, which works for you. And most of these common strengths, as we say, or good things about us would be there in every one of us, or most of us. But some of these things in a way identify us as an individual. You will find some people who are more punctual than the others, or there are some who are more empathetic than the others, more concerned about others. So different characteristics which identify us as a human being, differentiate. But in a way all of these things are there in us, right? Okay, so taking that into account, what are the kind of things that we can say? So obviously we need to introspect, think what has worked for us and all. So that part is critical. You cannot go, you cannot avoid that. It is painful, I know, for most of us, not used to something like this. But we'll have to sit down and think, what is it that most people prefer? Earlier I used to advise people to actually ask their friends and family members. Then I realized that after having such conversations, some of them have actually gone into depression. So I started asking them not to have such conversations, right? So it's better to sit down yourself and think about all the incidents in your life, all the achievements in your life, all the good things which you by any parameter would be decent thing that you have done, and why you have done them and others have not been able to do, or most of the others would have not been able to achieve. Okay, even in your interest and hobbies can be a reflection of what are the good things about you. Okay, for example, say if I take a case of a student. Now this student had very mediocre academic record, yet he managed to do very well in CAT and get a call and all. So when we think of someone like this, the first thing that comes to your mind is perseverance. A person who is not ready to quit, who is ready to fight it out, isn't it? So then from there on he can expand, find other incidents in his life which can be connected to it. Okay, or if someone who has not a glittering academic record, but there is not a single exam, not a single board exam or college exam where he has done badly. So he's a consistent person. Every exam he does well. There are no highs and lows in his life. It's a flat line, and a flat line at a high level. Okay, so this is how we should go about it. Now what are the other pointers to it? One, avoid saying common stuff like hardworking, punctual, discipline, and I'll explain why. Say, I'll tell you what are such adjectives which comes to my mind: hardworking, punctual, discipline. These are three things which are coming. What else? Say these three things and similar words. I'm sure you get the drift here. Everyone understands what kind of words we are trying to avoid here. Okay. The reason being, see, these are unlikely ever to be exceptional qualities. Okay. And I'll tell you why. In college life it is different, but when you start working you realize something. Practically every single individual who is working in corporate world or anywhere, even in government jobs or anywhere, contrary to what you think, to survive alone, let alone flourish or grow, even to survive, he has to be exceptionally hardworking, has to be disciplined, has to be punctual, has to interact well with people at some level and all. He has to do all those things. Otherwise, it is impossible to survive in the world, in the kind of sphere that we are all targeting, job and all, business job. So when we say hardworking, it's nothing exceptional about our hardworking. Okay. A rickshaw wala who goes at 8 o'clock in the morning, comes back at 9 o'clock in the night, he's hardworking. A bank clerk who leaves home at 7 o'clock to reach office at 9, he's punctual. And then he's derided by everyone for not being hardworking enough, a public servant, a government employee and all. Right? So these things are to be avoided, one. Second, adjectives are not important. It is not necessary that we throw up adjectives: persevering, enterprising, enthusiastic. Rather than focusing on the adjective, it's always better to focus on what message they are conveying. So words are not so important. If you give the meaning of those words in a way and how are you connected to them, it is better. Okay. Third point, examples. Without examples, they sound like empty promises or potential. With examples, it's performance, proof. So examples, incidents, And see, no one likes a long sobbing story. So your story should be short, crisp, to the point, and relevant. Whatever anecdote, incident, event you mention, it should have all the relevant information, but it should be crisp, to the point, not a long-winded story. All right. So basically, these are the three things that we have to keep in mind. Avoid very common words. Second, words are not important. The spirit of the thing is important. And third, always give examples, incidents, events, which establish your point. And also, to add on to it, when you select, normally all of you would select at least 2, 3, 4, right? So try to find some commonality. It's not necessary, but have a chain of it so that it suits you as a personality. For example, if someone says, he's an extrovert, he likes to meet people and go around and all that. And then you also add that, I have a philosophical bent of mind. So it may be possible, why not? If it is genuine, it's good that, you have such extreme traits in you. But for most people, that would be hard to consume. Like normally we associate extrovert people with people who don't waste too much time brooding or thinking, right? So ideally, if all that comes together, establishes a cliched, stereotype personality, something that doesn't trouble the interviewer's imagination too much, that is better. Okay, so these are three things that we have to keep in mind. Let's come to weakness. See, in weakness, the first point that I would like to mention is be honest. But not brutally. This is not your psychologist's couch, your shrink's couch, where you go and bare your soul. Right? So you have to be honest, but at the same time tactically. Okay? A little diplomatically, tactfully. Okay? I say honest because otherwise it looks a waste of a time and waste of effort. He says something, you come up with a lame excuse. What are the kind of lame excuses people not mostly come, and people who have received thorough training in GD interview are most likely to come up with such excuses. I'm too patient. I'm too helpful. I can't say no. See, when you say all that, what are you saying? I'm so good that I'm bad. Isn't it? That is what you're trying to convey. Isn't it? And these people who are interviewers, they can see through it. They'll have two options. They'll either ignore your stupidity, isn't it? Or secondly, they will think that I've had enough of it. Let's really take the mickey out of this guy. And then he will have 10 minutes of fun, and you will curse the day you decided to go for cat. So ideally avoid such answers. That is what I'll suggest. Be a little genuine and say that. And for God's sake, don't give examples to prove your point. I mean, you don't need to convince him that his weakness is such a strong weakness. So don't give examples. What you need to give in place of example, if possible, if suitable, is rectification measures. And again, this is no rigid format that all answers have to be in this format. These are all advisory notes. So, I mean, if you say that, I wake up late, then maybe you can give a rectification format. That I have joined a gym which starts at 6 in the morning, or some training class or something, right? But for many other questions, it's very difficult to think of a rectification format per se. What are you doing? Okay. If I'm overweight, I can do yoga, or I can, join sports and lose weight. Alright. But say if I'm, if I think that I'm not a good listener, then the rectification format, just being conscious of it, aware of this trait itself is a big step. Okay, so you don't need to think, that I'm reading self-help books to avoid.
So can we use being overweight as a weakness?
Maybe not your premier weakness, but maybe as a second or third weakness. That I like to be more disciplined in my personal life, regulate my fooding habits, exercise more. At my age, I think I need to be a little more conscious of it, because somewhere it also affects my concentration when I'm working. Isn't it? So something like that can work out. So what have we learned in weakness? Honest, not too honest, no examples, rectification measures. All right. And when I say that, and I also mentioned that don't give those stupid weaknesses. A strength disguised as weakness. All right. And also don't give a totally frivolous, superficial weakness. say, as you rightly said, overweight, it may sound initially that you are trying to dodge the question, but when you explain it, it becomes clear to him that you are worried about it. But say, I sleep too much. This may be your fourth and fifth weakness. It cannot be your first weakness, I sleep too much.
But should we give as many weaknesses as 4 or 5?
It depends on him asking. See, what if he says, give me your biggest weakness, obviously 7. If he says, give me, what are the weaknesses you feel, then you give 2 or 3. But at times they can ask you to go on, anything else. Then you at least need to be ready with 4 or 5 on the spot. After that, that is ideal. After that, you can say that, I can't think of anything else right now, sir. Or maybe you can rephrase your earlier weakness and present it as another weakness. Okay. But after 4 or 5, you are excused. You are pardoned for all these things. But this, in terms of preparation, this is what you should ideally do. Okay. And as I was saying those things that, sleep too much and all, this can be your third, fourth weakness. It can't be your first or second weakness. As you have to understand something. Some people say, I can't think of any major weakness that I should tell you. Right? Now, the point is, mature people think about themselves. They introspect. They make lists. They remember what incidents happened to them throughout the week. Where did they go right? Where did they go wrong? Every single, your father, your uncles, they all do that. Maybe you have never been aware of this. When they're alone, they sit down with, most of them sit down with a notebook, make a list of this. Sometimes they just think about it. Every single mature adult does that. That is called maturity. You make your life little easier, little better. You learn from your incidents, right? And then you realize you're not perfect. What are the things that you're not good at? How do you improve on that? And there will be 1,001 things. You identify the priority order and you go about it. Over a period of time, you're able to curtail it. So when they ask what are your weakness, they're just trying to see, are you talking with yourself? Are you being honest with yourself? Do you have a roadmap for a little bit of self-improvement? How to make life a little better and easy for yourself? That is what they're looking for. So when you say, I have no weakness, who says that? A baby says that. You ask a 5-year-old kid, beta tumhe kya kharabi hai? Uncle, main to perfect hu. A 5-year-old kid would give you that answer. But a 35-year-old man won't give you that answer. He will tell you honestly what he thinks the areas of improvement and so on, right? So that is what he wants to see. See, in an interview, he does not want to see you as a cynical person. He wants to see you the effervescence of youth, the enthusiasm of age. But he does not want to see an innocent, fresh, green, wet behind the ears who does not know anything about the real world. He doesn't want that also, isn't it? A fine balance has to be maintained. Okay. Any questions about strengths and weaknesses? Any particular strength, weakness that you can think of? What would your strength be if you have to say something? Yeah. Anyone?
Target oriented, team player.
See again, you should try to be a little more specific. Okay, easy to understand thing. Target oriented is a little too vast, so to say. Okay, so again, team player is too vast. All, as I said, all of us are target oriented team player, and I'm sure that maybe you are a better team player than most of us. Okay, all of us are decent team players. Maybe you are a very good team player. But which part of your character makes you a decent team player? Sometimes it so happens you are the kind of guy who initially takes up responsibility straight away. You are the kind of guy who's a very good crisis manager. You are the kind of guy who allocates responsibility very well. You are the kind of guy people find easy to trust maybe. You are the kind of guy who ensures that the deadlines are met. So which part of you makes you a good team player? 1 or 2 or 3 parts. There we call specific thing. Or talking, good team player. Similar to that would be good communication skill. I mean, is my communication skill bad? Or can you look around and find a single person whose communication skill is not up to the scratch? Maybe yours is better for some other reason. Maybe you put effort in it. Maybe you have done plays and dramas. You can speak well. Maybe you have good command over the language. Maybe you have been commended for your writing skills, so you know that you speak well. Whatever. So there has to be a reason why this is good. Otherwise, it's just a vast, vague thing. It's like opening up Pandora's box. You need to bring the question asker down to specific things so that the area of battle is small. He can ask you only around those things. Okay. Yes, anyone else? Just mention a few strengths or weaknesses that come straight to your head right now about yourself. The first or second things that come to you about yourself, strength, weakness. Nothing. Anything in terms of weakness?
Tending to be a bit lazy at times.
Fair enough. That seems a very honest weakness. So it's okay, but the problem in this one was only the choice of words. Tending to be a bit lazy can be rephrased in a better way. For example, uh, maybe you can relate it to concentration. That my concentration wavers at time, and I would like myself to be a little more focused on what I'm doing. So at times I feel that I lose a little bit of spark. Maybe that would be a little bit better.
Can being judgmental be considered a weakness?
It's too strong a weakness to be told in an interview, because see, being judgmental, prejudiced is not very. Like, in what context are you saying this? Like, why do you think?
Extremely judgmental about people, the way they talk, and I judge them, that they might not be good in another course of things. That way.
So that can be a little too harsh on yourself. It can, so avoidable. I mean, I don't think that they really mind you saying that, but again, avoidable. Why scupper our own chances? It's too harsh a thing to say. We have to come across as liberal person, easy to get along, because see, getting along with people is a very critical part of management job. And in terms of strength, you
Can we consider being friendly as a strength?
see, again, as I said, friendly as a word. I think you're
Yeah,
trying
it
to.
is a very casual word.
No, casual is right, colloquial, but more importantly, when you say something like that, what are you trying to convey? You are trying to say that easy to get along with,
Yeah.
right? Now, my point is, everyone is easy to get along with. None of us are very difficult people, barring few. So maybe you are better at that. So which part of your personality makes you better at that? Let's start with that. Okay, when you look at around at your friends and all, and everyone has his own style. There are some people who are just extrovert. They like to mix with people, like to talk, like to share interest and all. So they are also easy to get along. There are quite people who are good listeners. They are easy to get along. So different styles and all. So we need to go straight to that point rather than thinking of a vast heading. And in strengths, avoid saying things like I'm a perfectionist and all. Okay. So that is completely, like, anything which is extreme is to be avoided. It needs to